All right, Knicks Nation, let's get into this. We have the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks facing each other at Madison Square Garden. The Brooklyn Nets, they're trying to maintain positioning in the play-in so that way they don't have to play 2 games, and that way they can try to get home court advantage as well. Knicks are looking to play upset tonight, and so that's what we had at the beginning of the first quarter, right? We saw the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets coming in, having a good battle, going toe-to-toe. Knicks would lean on the backs of Alec Burks, Obi Toppin, and RJ Barrett in the first quarter to get a 29 and 25 point lead. The Knicks would then go into the second quarter and blow the doors wide open, taking a 20-point lead, leading on Obi Toppin and Alec Burks' hot shooting with some good playmaking from Emmanuel Quickly, even though he wasn't hitting his shots yet. But because of those guys, we'd have a 70 to 50. We'd have a 70 to 50. We have a 70 to 50 score at the end of the half. Then the third quarter would come around, right? And that's usually when we get a little nervous. Third quarter of doom. You think the Knicks aren't going to hold on, and that's kind of what happened. We went from this fast-paced offense that we saw in the first half and started going back to that half-court sets, slow, getting Alec Burks in the post, trying to grind it all out. But the Knicks would hang in there. They maintain a 10-point lead thanks to Jericho Sims, who would get a double-double tonight, and Obi Toppin just high-flying, getting some dunks and putbacks, hitting some fadeaway jumpers, and thanks to some RJ Barrett bully ball going down the lane. But then the fourth quarter would come around, right? And sadly, in a blink of an eye, the Knicks' 10-point lead that they had in the third quarter would be diminished thanks to good shooting from Patty Mills, Seth Curry, and Kyrie Irving. But the young Knicks wouldn't go away that easily. They kept battling. They kept it close. They kept it within a 1-2 point game throughout most of the fourth quarter. But it wasn't enough, guys. It just wasn't enough. Because why Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Seth Curry, Patty Mills decided to go supernova and just not miss a shot in the last fourth quarter. And unfortunately, the Knicks would lose 110 to 98. Guys, welcome to KnicksFanTV post game. I'm your boy Alex Terrace, aka the Stratocaster, and with me on the other side is JD Sports Talk. We're gonna get into this game tonight. JD, my man, this was a tough one, man. This was a tough one. I wasn't expecting much out of this game. I wasn't expecting the Knicks to come out being victorious, but the way that it started, I was a little encouraged. I was hopeful. I was hopeful to think that these young guys would start, showing some more life towards the end of the season to even get us more optimistic heading into next season, especially if they're able to pull back all these veterans from the roster, right? But it was that third quarter, man. I don't know why we like to do it. As I said, I don't know why we like to go away from playing a fast-paced offense, because you saw it was working, especially for Obi Toppin, right? He was getting out there, hitting his shots, moving, cutting. Dude played really well tonight. He went 7 for 13, had 19 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 3 blocks. Was okay to good on the defensive end, but offensively, that's where he was making his bread and butter. And then, you thought you were going to have fourth quarter Burks today by the way he showed up, but dude started getting a little too cold towards the end of the game. And then RJ, yikes. Just a big old yikes, man. Because he started off good, and then he would just go cold, man. He would go cold in the second half. But that's what happens when we start going half-court offense, bro. But JD, what are some of your thoughts for the game tonight?
Tonight was definitely a tough loss. But hey, if you're of the ones that are looking at the Knicks capitalizing on having the best pick possible, I guess tonight was a good night. But as you mentioned, you can go into the game with a certain mindset based on the future of the franchise, but then the game starts. It's the Brooklyn Nets. It's Kevin Durant. It's Kyrie Irving. Right? It's ESPN. They had the black and white, I guess, on ESPN2, kind of giving you a little old school look on the other side of the stream. And then, the Nets were playing for something. The Nets control their destiny. I think if they win out, they clinch the 7th seed. So this was due to be a competitive game. This was a game to look forward to. with some of the young players on this team, building momentum, building confidence. So all that together, and you see why there's fans that are saying that tonight is annoying. There's fans that are frustrated. Even in game 80, when the Knicks are not making the playoffs, there was still a lot of passion left, a lot of passion at the arena, passion online, passion on Twitter, as we all know. And so, like you mentioned, after that first half, I mean, you talk about the tale of two halves, man. I think the Knicks scored like 31 points in the second half, but in the first half, they looked like a totally different team. Even Burks himself had 18 points in the first half. The Knicks were playing well, but I think the difference, as you saw, is the style of play. In the first half, Obi himself, this was the first legit game where I even saw the guards looking for Obi in the paint. And that's not really something new. How many times before tonight have we seen Obi have a mismatch on the guard? He goes right under the basket. He has his hands up and we don't look for him or we miss him. Tonight, you saw multiple times we threw the ball down low. He got a foul. He got a bucket. So I was excited about that. Obi having that awareness, Obi having some aggressiveness. There was a play with Obi where even Durant had a great defensive play, had a block, but I still like the approach. I like the aggressiveness. A year from now, we're going to critique that play and we're going to hope that he creates separation by putting a body on Kevin Durant. But this year, my evaluation of a play like that is I like that aggressive mindset. So Obi was definitely a positive tonight. And it only makes you think, Alex, what could have been if some of these players had consistent playing time, had more of an opportunity. We saw more of a blend. Listen, you played a team like the Nets that's playing for something. Sometimes the second half is going to happen that way. I personally think that there was a lot of reasons why. Obviously, we didn't play well. RJ didn't play well. We missed free throws. The Knicks right now are number 2 in the whole NBA in missed free throws this season. The New York Knicks, ladies and gentlemen, this season right now have missed 501 free throws. There's only 2 teams that have missed 500 free throws or more. That's the New York Knicks at number 2, and the Houston Rockets are in first place at 566. And the funny thing about that is they're not the worst percentage free throw shooting team in the NBA. It's just they've actually gotten a lot of free throw attempts. They've also missed a lot of them. So when you look at reasons that you lost, I look at the free throw line. If, we're going to be objective, I look at the free throw line. I look at coaching. I look at RJ's performance, 7 of 27. That's not going to cut it. 2-11 from 3. That's not going to cut it. I think they did miss a few calls on him, but that doesn't nullify 7 of 27. And so those are the reasons I think we lost the game. To me, in the second half, I did not understand why. Alex, this is what I say about next year, about trends. Why is Alec Burks going ISO on 6'11" Kevin Durant? Is it? I mean, it's not Robert Tractor Trailer. It's not Jerome James. It's not like a center that can't move. It's Kevin Durant. But we're going ISO Burks in the second half. We're going ISO Burks in the fourth quarter. Just look at the offensive execution in the late fourth. Look at the type of plays that were called. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the emphasis. I didn't like the play calling. So all around, coaching, free throws, and RJ Barrett, if you ask me, in terms of ways that we could have won the game tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And to get on RJ Barrett, I mean, it felt like he was pressing tonight, JD. Like, I feel like he was trying to do too much instead of letting his game come to him. It started off good when he started attacking the paint and he was getting to the free throw line. He hit 7 of 12 free throws today. But the fact that he was pressing from the 3-point line, trying to be that guy, he went 2 for 11. And he was taking some shots that aren't necessarily in his arsenal, like that step back 3 that he had in the third quarter after bricking a 3 before that. Like, you don't need to do that. No one's asking you to be, the next Kevin Durant on our side. You know, no one's asking you to be that guy right now. Just play within your envelope. Let the game come to you. I wish he would. These are the things that you need for these type of games as a learning experience for him to understand that, okay, I'm not having it, which is what he's usually good at, right? He's usually good at understanding that, all right, I don't have it tonight. Let me get my teammates involved. And to a certain extent, he did. He did have 7 assists tonight. He was looking for his teammates, but he could have pulled that back a little bit more because you had guys like Obi Toppin who was getting in there. You know, you had the mismatch between Jericho Sims on Kyrie Irving for some times. Same thing with Obi on Kyrie at times. Or you had Jericho also on Edwards and Bruce Brown. Like, those are the mismatches you could take against the Brooklyn Nets because they're not a good defensive team. And so I wish he would look for those, especially since he was getting more opportunities today to bring up the ball and initiate the offense. Right. Now, I know there's going to be an issue with with Burks and the post, and I totally agree with that. Like, there's no reason why you need him getting so many touches in the post against Kevin Durant. Like that, like we're talking about the height difference. Like 6'6" and a 7-footer is just, it makes no sense, bro. It just makes no sense whatsoever. But I'll give it to him that he had it tonight, so I understand why he went back in there for Deuce, even though you gave Deuce, really, like, you wanted to give Deuce like 2 minutes. Like, why even put him in there at all if you're just going to bring him right back out?
This is what I'm saying. And first to RJ, it's okay to it's perfectly fine to hold them accountable and also say that it's fine. Like, it's okay for him to have a night like tonight. He just had, a press conference saying that, like, I'm not concerned about RJ's night for the simple reason of just look at what he said at his practice press conference. He said, what pressure? This is fun. I love the Knicks fans. I feel like I'm built for this. Like, I know they're going to get on me when I don't play well. And I love them because I know they're going to cheer for me when I do play well. So a player that has that mindset, I'm not concerned about, a night like tonight where he's 7 of 27. But we do have to acknowledge that in the future, right? We talk about, year 4, when he gets that money, going 7 of 27, we're not going to win many games if he's one of our top leaders, right? Or one of our top players. So it's only acknowledging that, a game like tonight in the future is not going to win us games, but at the same time, he's going to learn from it, right? And so I think all things considered could be accurate at the same time. Because I don't necessarily, I'm not really looking at his game tonight and say he didn't play a style that I don't like. He took a few bad shots, but hey, he has to work on finishing around the rim. That doesn't mean that you're not going to take those opportunities next year. You're going to take those opportunities. But right now he's missing a lot of bunnies, right? He's missing a lot of shots in the paint. He still has to finish better. He still has to hit free throws a little bit better. But those are things that I'm going to take 12 more free throws for him next game and next season. Just try to hit 9 instead of 7, right? Instead of 7 of 27, don't take 27 shots, right? Find other ways to be effective. But I'm going to defend him. Here's where I'm the defender, right? We're going to play both sides here. Why is he playing 45 minutes? Why is he playing 45 minutes? and this is what I'm saying. And then it leads to Burks. Burks had 19 points, 18 in the first half, right? In the third quarter, he plays almost 10 minutes, goes 1 of 4. Fournier plays the whole quarter, only takes 1 shot, no free throws, no threes, 1 shot, 1 rebound, no assists, no 0, nothing, but 1 attempt. But he plays 12 minutes. Like, what's the feel here? So you have players that struggled in the third, and you played them basically the whole third quarter. But what? We're still remembering the first half, so we decide to play them in the fourth as much as we do in the fourth. Like, this is what I mean in terms of taking this game quarter to quarter, half to half, and just a feel for the game. And I think from the coaching standpoint, I think we saw a little bit of panic, right? Deuce comes in, play him 53 seconds. He takes a shot, which if you go back and look at the play, that wasn't his fault. It's not my fault if by the time I get the ball, there's 2 seconds up in the shot clock and I got to heave a shot. That's my fault. I got to pay for that. Why am I getting the ball with 2 seconds and a defender draped all over me? Right. And then you pull him right after that for Burks. Where is the trust? We're in game 80 and Deuce plays 6 minutes tonight. So, to defend RJ, all my criticism of Thibs has not only been the kids versus the vets. It's the template coaching. Just look at the minutes distribution of the starters. That's what he does. It's not about who's playing. It's about he coaches in a template way. If you're part of this group, you're going to play the whole third. You're going to play the whole first. People are going to it's a template way that I just don't agree with, because I feel like there should be more flexibility when the game is on the line, when a team is making runs. Take more risk, switch it up, but don't stick to the same thing. Just because it worked in the first half doesn't mean it's going to work in the second. And you saw it. We got away in the second half from what worked in the first. We weren't playing with tempo. Just because we got a 20-point lead, we want to kill the clock now and play, post-up game with Alec Burks, and we want to take shots with 3-4 seconds left. It doesn't make any sense to me sometimes. And I've never agreed with that style. But hey, some people disagree. So, and that's okay.
For sure. Let me just shout out the super chat real quick. We got AZ Cards Phoenix Suns on God sending us a super chat, $5 super chat, saying Thibs needs to give his Coach of the Year award back to its rightful owner, Monty Williams. Thibs also needs to apologize for acting like he won't let he won it legit too. Phoenix Suns in here wanting the award back for Monty. You'll love to see it. But nah, bro, I agree with you. I agree with you, JD. Like, there needs to be some sort of flexibility when it comes to this type of coaching style, right? And I get that you could say we're shorthanded tonight. Manuel quickly didn't really have it. The trust with Deuce McBride at game 80, coming off the bench, you should have had more than 7 minutes in a game where we're not even looking to win. If we won, that had been the cherry on top. We're in here looking to see what can our young guys do at this point. And this is where you look at Jericho Sims and Obi Toppin, you're like, wow, these guys are showing out tonight, right? But I totally agree with you 100% that there needs to be some sort of change for Thibodeau next season, if he can change, right? This is the question, because this has been the whole criticism throughout his entire coaching career. Can he change and become flexible? And every time there's like an article that comes out, it's like, oh, Thibs said he's gone on these these mission trips by hanging out with different coaches around the league, and that he learned something, that he's ready to implement every new thing that he learned. And then we go back to the same old thing, which is the template style coaching that you pointed out. But I also want to point out tonight, man, Jericho Sims. Because I really want to talk about Jericho Sims tonight, because he played 35 minutes. Mitchell Robinson was a late scratch due to illness today. Although I think if we did have him, it would have helped mitigate some of these loaded minutes for some place, because I felt defensively we could have given Sims a breather and could have had a little bit more activity protecting the rim, because that's what Tom Thibodeau likes to do. But Sims went 4 for 6 tonight, had 10 points, 13 boards, 9 defensive rebounds, and he was battling with everybody. I mean, the one play that I have to remember is him going straight up and stopping KD from getting a bucket. Like, the man was like a stone wall out there. I like that we're seeing Jericho Sims at this point of the season, because it gives me reassurance for what could happen next season if we lose Mitchell Robinson in free agency. To have a guy that you drafted with the 58th pick and showing you this late in the season, who's on a 2-way contract, by the way, right? He's been playing, even though he's been up here with the main squad, he's also gone down to the G League to get some run. And seeing what he's able to do now, whatever happens, I know we have a good backup center, at least, that can help provide rim protection and be strong and can battle with most of these centers too. Drummond's not having an easy time. KD didn't have necessarily an easy time. No one had an easy time going against Jericho Sims tonight. And you're starting to see him learn how to be a better player when it comes to boxing out, how to switch, reading the defense and getting to the right man they're supposed to cover, right? And his ability to move so quickly, like we talk about Mitch and guarding the pick and roll. These are the things that I can actually say, all right, not too worried this offseason when it comes to the center position. Not saying that it's fully locked up, but if we did lose Mitch, you can go the route of getting someone like a JaVale McGee on the cheap, right? As like a stopgap. And maybe you can continue to groom someone like Jericho Sims to be that next guy in case you lose him. But that's my thought, man. That's my thoughts on Jericho Sims. What do you think about his game tonight?
Hey, first career double-double tonight. So, he had it's a personal accomplishment for him. So I'm sure he's excited about that. And, he was able to get it in 35 minutes, 4 offensive rebounds. I was thinking a lot. He hasn't been able to get the opportunities in terms of him getting the offensive rebounds, but I know fans could recall this, and you too, Alex. He's shown a lot of Tyson Chandler to me in the way that, he jumps and tries to tip the ball back to allow us to get another possession. How many times do we see that from Tyson Chandler? Tyson Chandler was known for that in terms of always just, he'll swipe up the ball European style while the ball is in the air and kick it back out to the half court line and allow us to get another possession. And Sims does not give up. He gives you a lot of effort. Sometimes because of that style of play, sometimes he'll have games where he doesn't have great rebounds because of positioning, which is technique and stuff that he'll learn. But man, when you talk about strength, ability to set picks, he set a lot of picks tonight where he creates a lot of space. You talk about Dwight Howard doing that around the NBA in terms of having that body physique. And once you can combine that with great technique in terms of basketball, in terms of setting picks, that's an asset that doesn't pop up on the box score. Guards love big men that can set screens that way and allow them to operate and go to the paint. Emmanuel Quickley has been benefiting from that. And listen, he's making it. He's making it. He's helping the front office decide which way you want to go, because I've mentioned it time and time again. Sims and Mitch together means forget the stretch five. One of the two allows you to get a stretch five for the backup position or the starting position, whether you get a starting stretch five and Sims is the backup, or Sims is your starter and you get a young stretch five or a draft option that can shoot the ball. So this is going to be interesting in terms of personnel and style, how the Knicks front office wants to, build that position starting next season. Is that a deciding factor? Style. Is just cap space a deciding factor? Because you're talking about paying RJ, right? Then you got to pay Mitch then. So if we want to talk about having flexibility and this and that in the fourth, you got Cam after next year up. We'll see what his futures are for his team. Then you blink, Emmanuel Quickley's up. Like when you talk about cap space, now you're talking about, what they say in the NFL, position value. And I think it's going to come down with Mitch. How much does he want? And I think Sims' play may help the front office have a number in mind where they say, we're not going to go higher than this, and we'll live with it. And if we can maybe get some assets and do a sign and trade, we will. But Sims has to finish strong. I will say that. Still, we have 2 games left.
Yep.
He has to finish strong. Hopefully he gets 30+ minutes these last 2 games and he ends the season on a good note. At the very least, like you said, you got to be excited about Sims being at least your backup center next season.
For sure. And then the last guy I want to discuss a little bit further is our guy, Obi Toppin, man. We saw his post-practice presser where he's talking about getting better feeling for the game. He's able to work on the tiny mistakes because he's getting that playing time, right? And he's been averaging 15 minutes per game this season until Julius Randle's injury and now getting more extensive run. And tonight he had 43 minutes. Like I said, went 7 for 13, 2 for 4 from 3, 3 for 6 from the free throw line. You want to see him do better there. 5 rebounds. Want to see him a little bit more stronger on the boards. But 3 assists, 3 blocks, 1 steal. The thing that when I see about Obi Toppin, man, is just offensively, he is. Where do I start, man? Because not only is he good at just being a guy who can just run out in the open court, right, and just make it easier to put pressure on the defense when they're not set, but he himself, we saw, can push the pace as well and bring the ball up. And he doesn't have a tight handle. But if his handle does get tighter and he could be that power forward that could just push the pace like he did tonight and attack the rim and find Evan Fournier out in the corner who knocked down his shot, that's a dimension of this offense that could be unlocked where you're not always having to rely on someone like a point guard or even your wing player to come bring up the ball. And on top of that, I just want to talk about like how his shooting has really become unlocked at this point of the season where it seems like he's just more comfortable. And it doesn't seem like he's stressed that if he makes a mistake, he's going to get pulled. And that way it just allows him to figure out his jumper to get into more of a rhythm. And you can start to see that. Like he's not shooting moon rockets. Actually, most of his shots are hitting the back iron if it's not on target. They're not bricking. They're not flying like the windows open in the gym. And I like seeing that because it's encouraging because having a stretch four in this league, you know, as we saw what Julius Randle did last season, it makes your offense just that much more dynamic. And if he's able to improve on the shooting and really be consistent next season, right? And he hasn't necessarily shot well this season because one of the limited minutes that he's gotten. And two, it didn't seem like his jump shot was just there yet. If he's able to do this, you talked about it at the beginning of the show where what could have been, right? What if he got more minutes? He was able to offer this, especially off the bench with a fast-paced team like the second unit when you had Derrick Rose, Quickly, Burks, and all those guys, right? And if he's able to do that and contribute, or if you could just give Julius Randle a little bit more rest, and you didn't need to just essentially burn him out the entire time, or, you know, hold Randle accountable and just show him that, hey, the guy behind you is also playing well. Like, you have to hold yourself to a certain standard because Obi Toppin is just that good. I really wish that he got more minutes this season and just to show, like, just to see, like, going into next season, because next season is going to be a big season for him. It's going to be the third year of his contract. We keep talking about this. Knicks got to make a decision. Do you want to go with Obi Toppin or do you want to stick with Julius Randle? Obviously, we've had the conversations of it seems like it's time for Randle to move on and it's time to let Obi Toppin shine. But next season, like this offseason, we keep saying is a big offseason for the Knicks because what Obi Toppin is showing you right now, I don't know how you could be the front office and say, we got to get this kid more minutes because in 43 minutes, he was very efficient tonight. So efficient that you just can't keep him on the bench because of all what he offers. Like, sure, defense, he's not great, but he's giving you effort out there. Like no one's getting by him that easily. I think the only thing, not the only thing, but like one of the few things he can do defensively is not necessarily be so quick to leave his feet to try to block somebody. Just try to stay in front of his man. That's the biggest thing. And I'm just excited for what Obi Toppin is right now because he's showing a lot of promise at this point of the season.
And you're talking about a lottery pick who, now as a starter in 8 games as a starter is averaging nearly 16.7 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 37.5% from 3. And in his last 3 games, he's shooting 39% from 3. And we've talked about how, having the ability to hit the 3-point shot is going to, help expand his game, especially in him hitting the 3-point shot in Thibs' system because of the centers that we have, right? Where if Thibs is always going to have a center that's not really a shooter or an offensive threat, then unless you're running a pick and roll with Obi or you're running those plays, those backdoor plays, he's going to get 3-point opportunities, which means in this offensive system, he's going to have to hit those. And he's been doing that after the All-Star break. And he's been playing very, very well. And, I'm telling you, year 3, this is a business. Now this player is going on to year 3, College Player of the Year. He's proven to himself, forget about what we think. He's proven to himself that in his mind, he's probably thinking, I can start in this league. So now you're going into year 3. And I pretty much, this offseason, I know him and his agent are going to talk about, with the Knicks, what direction are we going here? Because This is not no disrespect to any other player in front of me or in the depth chart. This is about a business, and this is about what I believe in. And lottery picks always want an opportunity to start in the league. Any player, before you call a player a bust in the league, every player, especially every lottery pick, wants an opportunity to be a starter. Let me prove it. And when he knows he's going to get the minutes, he's been producing. How about that fadeaway in the paint at the buzzer? Obi! I couldn't believe I saw that. I'm like, wait, is this Obi? Is that Obi? Did I see what I see what I think I saw? We've been seeing these few plays here and there that, when scouts evaluate players and they use these terms, upside and potential, those are the plays and those are the things that you see on film that, you term a player with upside. And although Obi is on the older scale of young players in terms of prospects, he still has some upside. And I think the next step will be him getting consistent minutes, but also us continuing to maximize his athletic ability, whether that's the way that we did it tonight, get him on some mismatches, right? Get him down low, give him the ball, let him work. Backdoor plays, alley-oops, and then getting a point guard here, getting an additional playmaker and playing a two-man game with him. So I've been impressed with Obi, man. It only makes you think, why in the world was Obi averaging 11 minutes last season? Why in the world was Obi averaging whatever it was, 12, 13 minutes earlier in the season? Like why? And then we have other players getting 40 and 38, and there was a lack of accountability around here. So, but it is what it is, and you hope that the front office and the organization makes the right decisions. And if Thibs is here, I think now there's pressure on him for sure, like for real. There's pressure on him to play the right players and to start to, start to make adjustments and adapting for a change.
No doubt. But yo, let's refresh this. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you everyone for joining KnicksFanTV post-game live. Brooklyn Nets defeat the New York Knicks 110-98. If you're going to tune in, if you're tuning in and you want to call in, make sure to use the Discord tonight. No phone lines. Make sure to tap into the Discord. We are all up and running over there. We'll take your calls. All right. And this show is sponsored by Prizepicks. All right. Make sure to use the code KFTV. We'll get to that later. JD, I know you played tonight, but let's get to the phones. Let's get to the Discord, I should say, because we got a guest right now. We got a guest. We got the man himself, Ari Faxinato, on the line. Ari, are you there, my man? Are you there on the line?
Am I live?
Yes, sir. You are live with us right now. What up, Ari?
All right. Well, what's up, guys? Listen, man, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't watch the game tonight. I just, I didn't see the point in honestly watching this game tonight. So, everything that you said before sounds really good, but can we just focus on the big picture right now and the report that Woj dropped that Tom Thibodeau is staying for the extended period of time? We could talk about Obi. Obviously we know Obi should have played the entire time. Okay, I've said the entire time he should have played. But Thibs is going to be Thibs, and regardless of what development these players play, what pick we get in the draft, who we draft, none of that really matters if Tom Thibodeau and Julius Randle are still going to be on this team next year, right? Or at least by the end of the next trade deadline. And I just think it's very alarming when you have a report from the most reputable guy in the NBA basically saying that the coach who played RJ Barrett, his best player, 45 minutes, literally 45 minutes in a game when they're out of the playoffs with 2 games left, and had Alec Burks running around like a maniac, is going to be your coach when he's left Obi on the bench. He gives quickly less minutes than Burks. We could talk about now and how we feel now. Oh, they won, they lost, and that's. But in the future, we're trying to win a championship, and I'm a little concerned that Tom Thibodeau is reported by Woj to be here for the next 2 years or whatever. If that's the case, then Julius Randle has to go. You can't have both of them back next year and expect to get any more kind of development from the young guys. Obi's not getting 43 minutes if they bring back Randall. Like, what are we doing here? Like, is this Thibs thing real? If it's real, then Randall has to go. I personally think they both have to go. But there's a lot of like, I don't care about the draft. I don't care about today's game. I don't care about Kevin Durant. I don't care about Quickly, anything like that. If Thibs and Randall are on this team next year, I'm not gonna watch these games, man. So I want to hear what your thoughts are on that Woj report on Thibs, and if that's true, how do you see Randall coming back and running this back without stunning Cam's growth and Obi's growth and Sim's growth and all of them? So that's just my question. But thank you for the call.
Thank you, Ari. Thank you. And man, yeah, I mean, we saw JD. I'm sure that you saw the Woj bomb too. Before we get into that, I love how Ari's like, I didn't watch the game. I'm just upset that I saw the Woj bomb that Thibs signed on.
That has taken over his day. That's probably why he didn't watch the game either. He was so down. I've seen him on Twitter. Man. He was a mess today. I mean, listen, you guys know how I feel. I personally would not bring both of them back, only for the simple fact that from a Randall standpoint, I just don't think his style is a fit for this team. And I'm not calling him a bad player. Again, we're talking about the future. You got to understand where you are as a franchise. And okay, the Knicks gave him an extension. I think a lot of it was politics. I think a lot of it was connections, Kentucky, the whole CAA thing. He had a great year. We made the 4th seed. The whole, PR standpoint of how could you let him walk or let him, go into free agency, when he did this. So I think a lot of it had to do with that. And, rewarding a player for having that type of season. But then now you're starting to see, a bigger sample size from even before he was a Knick. Look at how many years he hasn't really been a great shooter. He shot over 40% last year in a contract year. And then this year, he's going back to some of his historic data. And then again, we talk about tonight, right? You want to connect it to a game like tonight. Look how the kids were playing in the first half. Look at the style. Like, you can look at that type of basketball and see a future, right? Like, you can look at that type of basketball and say, okay, we have a foundation here. How do we improve that foundation, right? Hitting on the draft, getting a point guard here, maybe switching up the system a little bit, utilizing some players, better play calling. Like, but you have a foundation. I don't know what's the foundation when Randall is in the mix unless he has to completely shift his style of play. And that's a big question mark. And then so, when we go to Thibs, I wouldn't bring it back for the simple fact that I think if we're back in the same position next year, here we go again. And what is everyone? It's funny. Today, the emphasis is continuity and stability and all that stuff. But I guarantee you, if we're here next year, the same position, you know what everyone's going to say? Oh, we should have done it last year. We should have done it last year. What's the difference? It's only 12 months later. Who cares what mainstream media is going to say? Oh, if they fire Thibs this year, next year, mainstream media is still going to criticize the Knicks. That's what they do. But why not do what you think is best for the organization? If you don't think that a coach's style fits or his ways, because all the accolades I hear about Thibs is discipline. Give him credit for that. Building a culture. Fine. Give him credit for that. He coaches hard. He's a hard, worker. Give him credit for that. At what point do we get to time management? At what point do we get to play calling? At what point do we get to substitutions? At what point do we get to the actual game? Like actual coaching decisions that in crunch time are going to decide games. At what point do we go to that side of the evaluation chart? So to me, I think when you really analyze it, his weaknesses are reasons why coaches get fired around sports. And if it doesn't happen now, it usually happens eventually. So those are my thoughts on that. But I will say if they do decide one, which that's the way that it's looking based on Woj, that they're going to decide on Thibs, then I do agree. When you look at games like tonight from Obi, I don't see a scenario where you can bring both of them back next year and then as a front office, you're going to try to sell me on a direction.
No, I totally hear you on that. And as you know, for me, I've been preaching that it's time to move Randall more so than Thibs. Just from the standpoint that I think it's easier just to shake up the roster than it is always to fire a coach, because sometimes you just fire a coach and you're looking for the solution from another coach. And we know that in this case, for the Knicks, the heir apparent is supposed to be Johnny Bryant, right? And I'm not saying that I'm Tibbs' biggest fan. And I've been one saying too, like, yeah, you can bring him on for another season next year as long as like you're moving Julius Randle as well, because I think Julius Randle has extended his time. Not extended his time, but he's used up all of his time here, right? Right? We've seen the theatrics, whether it's arguing with the refs, not holding himself accountable, this, that, and the third. We can keep going down the list as we always do, but I won't go into all that. And I think everyone knows why I think Julius Randle needs to be moved. But when it comes to Thibodeau and why I'm okay with one more season is I think you could still set it up for Johnny Bryant to take over one more year after Tom Thibodeau. This wouldn't be the first time that James Dolan has fired a coach with money on the line. I mean, we also had reports earlier this season saying that Dolan was okay with moving on from Tom Thibodeau if that's what the front office wanted to do. And if the case is that they've already picked up the extension, for Tom Thibodeau, I still don't see that making a difference for James Dolan, because I think for him, he also still wants to see a winning product on the court. And if Tom Thibodeau is not helping this team do that, I don't see him saying, well, I have money invested. This wouldn't be the first time he's had a lot of money invested in players and coaches, then he decides to move off of them and pay for more players and coaches to come on the books just to see if this team can win. So I'm not too worried about that. But so hearing that he has another year guaranteed, if they're saying that they want to go with him for all 5 years, I mean, that would just have to be the product on the court, right? I mean, we'd have to see Randall out of here. You're playing a lot of the youth. Everyone's playing up to that tempo. And I've said, you even see it tonight. The kids are playing the way that Tom Thibodeau was preaching at the beginning of the season that he wanted to see this team play, which is fast paced. Even though they went to a grinding halt in the second half, they do play with a certain level of pace with all the kids out there. Even when we saw the wins against the Detroit Pistons, the Miami Heat, and so forth. So we know that the kids are listening to that. And even off of Ian Begley's article that he reported, right? He said, how do you know if a coach still has the trust of the locker room, right? Or if they're listening. And it's the fact that they're still going out there executing the way that the coach wants them to play, and they are doing that. So he hasn't lost the locker room yet. And that's another reason why I'm okay with it, based off of what Ian Begley has reported, saying, how do you know that that connection is still there? But
and I'll just quickly say with Thibs and the losing the locker room, I will say, because of the way that he prepares, because there's stuff that you do have to acknowledge. And him just like, this was his dream job. And you see him out there, like, you may not like the way that he yells and he complains and all that stuff, but that's also passion, right? So I think as a professional NBA player, it's pretty difficult to give up on a coach that's that passionate and prepares as hard as he does, and he loves the job. It's one thing for me not to agree with your style and the way that you execute, and me, like, I can think that you're not a great coach, but also respect everything else about you. So I think that's why it's a tricky situation, because I think you'll see the players always play with maximum ability, part of it for their personal reasons, but
for
also
sure,
I think because they respect Thibs.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
that doesn't mean that in terms of the future of the franchise and as far as a coach, like, two things can be right at the same time.
100%.
And so that's what I think about Thibs. And Dolan loves to spend money, man. They're just rewarding him. Dolan loves to spend money.
And let me clarify, not extension, but they picked up the last year of his option. It was what was reported by Woj, just so I can clarify on that. But I'm not too worried about it, honestly. Look, if the team is not listening to Thibs next season and you see that disconnect, they're going to move on from him as they've done in the past, whether it's D'Antoni, whether it's Fizdale, whether it's Hornacek, whether it's Fisher. It wouldn't be the first time, and it for sure wouldn't be the last, as long as James Dolan is the owner of this team. So not too worried about that, but I do think if you are going to move on from somebody, I think Randall's going to be that option, because if you're going to keep him here, you have to let these kids play, especially if they're showing out right now. And if you hear that front office wants these kids to play, right, that means there has to be some overhaul on the roster, whether that's, moving on from Burks, moving on from Derrick Rose, trying to move Evan Fournier. There's a lot of guys on there that are taking up time and that Thibs will rely on because of them being vets and having that experience, which is counterintuitive for a young developing team, especially with how this front office, has gone out and got Cam Reddish. I was shocked that they used all 4 draft picks last year to get everyone, considering that we saw how hard it was for, not necessarily how hard it was for Emmanuel quickly to break the rotation, and neither Obi, but how many minutes and how much trust they had as rookies, right? So that was a little shocking to me. But if that's what the direction the front office has to go, then you're gonna have to force Thibs' hand in order for him to go in that direction. Otherwise, we're not going to see any growth or development from this team whatsoever, and we're just going to constantly see the same thing over and over again. I don't know. Then at that point, what is the direction of this team? At that point, that's where you start scratching your head, as in, are we trying to develop? Are we trying, because we're certainly not winning if we're doing this. And a team that's built like this isn't meant to be a championship contending team. So something's got to give. But let's go on to the next call, man. We got Dave G on the line with us. Dave, if you can hear us, please. What do you got going on, man? What's your thoughts? What are your takes?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Dave?
I'm all right, man. I was pissed after the game, but listening to you guys, I'm calm now. I'm calm. 31 points in the second half is just unacceptable. But getting past that, man, I was kind of hoping CP was going to be on tonight, because I had some things that I disagree with him on. One is the Randall thing. I think you
can say he's going to watch the show.
He's watching the show.
Give him that
heat. He's in the chat.
Give him that heat. Obi.
He's I understand that not wanting to sell low on Randall. I get it. I totally agree. That makes sense. But at the same time, if you bring Randall back next year and he repeats this, you're only going to be selling lower, and that you definitely cannot do. And so you have to figure out some move this offseason to get Randall into a different situation. He needs a change of scenery. It's just not going to work out in New York. You got to move on. You can't sell lower on him, because if he comes back next year and he repeats this crap, you're not going to get anything for him. You have to sell him for a Pop-Tart. It's not going to be good. And so you got to move on from him. And if you are, I've heard these talks about possibly for a Jeremy Grant. No way. Jeremy Grant's a good player. I like him. But if you're moving on from Randall, Obi has to move into the starting role, and you have to see what you have. Pick this dude in the lottery. You have to actually see what you have with Obi. Is he a starting power forward in the NBA? I think so. I think he's a future hyper-athletic version of the Morris twins. They shoot the three. They rebound pretty well. They play solid defense. That's what he looks like to me, and that's a solid player on a good team. So you can't be trading for a guy like Jeremy Grant when and he takes up, because Tom Thibodeau is going to play him just like Julius Randle, where he's playing him 40 minutes a game, and Obi's just going to be sitting on the bench. You cannot.
That's
do
a
that.
fact.
The front office this offseason, this is the other thing that I disagree with CP about, is this season, the way it's gone, is less on the front office as it is on Thibs and Randall. The front office this offseason, they put together minutely, barely, but a better roster on paper than last year's. Without question, everyone said that in the offseason. Oh, look, the Knicks got a little bit better. Let's see how it works out. It hasn't worked out. Most of it has been on the fact that Julius has played terribly. Thibs hasn't held him accountable and hasn't made adjustments. Don't blow 5 20-plus second half leads if you're even a halfway decent team. And this team is a halfway decent team. And with Derrick Rose, without a doubt, this team has 8, 9, maybe even 10 more wins than it does right now. And everyone's looking at this season differently, because you're 44, whatever wins, you're in the play-in in a stacked Eastern Conference. Is totally different, but it may be a blessing in disguise that Derrick Rose got injured, because now you got quickly developing at the point. So this offseason, the front office has to force Tom Thibodeau's hand. you have to get rid of a good portion of these vets because you cannot have Alec Burks taking up 40 minutes a game next year. You can't have Evan Fournier taking up minutes for Cam Reddish because you're not going to find out what you have in Cam Reddish if you don't play him. The front office this season, if you're not going to actually make a move for a star, you have to force Tom Thibodeau's hand and get rid of these vets, man. You just have to.
I hear you, Dave, and thank you for calling in, man. Really appreciate it. Yeah. I still put some of the, I don't know about you, Jay. I know, JD, you're going to be putting it on Thibs and Randall too. And I put, look, I think if I had a categorically rank, I'd probably go Randall, front office, and then Thibs, just because I feel like they put together too many. Let me start with Randall. We know what Randall did. Not enough effort at the beginning of the season, dogging it, all that stuff. There were games where, especially like against the Orlando Magic early on, where you go against Wendell Carter, you should be taking Wendell Carter to town. You know, you have mismatches against Lonzo Ball when you're playing the Chicago Bulls. We've seen him jog back on defense, not giving full effort, taking some questionable shots, doing a complete 180 from what he was doing last season. I didn't get to see a lot of that baseline jumper on the right-hand side that he loved to take. A lot of those mid-range shots at the foul line. I didn't see him going downhill as much. You know, last season he was averaging about double digits, somewhere between 10 and 11 drives per game. For a good stretch of this season, has been around 8 to 9. So he's not getting downhill as much, not drawing enough contact to get to the foul line. He started to do that around the All-Star break, but it's a little too late, especially when you need to take advantage of those games early on, especially games that were going to go into the Knicks' favor, like against the Orlando Magic. When you play the Oklahoma City Thunder, you know, those type of games you have to take advantage of, especially if you want to make the play-in at least. So that's where I go for Julius Randle. I then put on the front office because, look, you took a risk on Kemba Walker, fine. You brought in Evan Fournier, fine. You brought in a lot of guys who are theoretically going to help because they can all play make, they can all shoot. But when you think of how many guys need to have the ball in their hands to actually do something, because Kemba Walker is a ball-dominant player. Evan Fournier was a ball-dominant player to a certain degree down in Orlando. Julius Randle was the ball-dominant player for the New York Knicks. And then you want to get R.J. Barrett involved. R.J. was fourth on that chart. And if you're thinking about wanting your third-year player to grow and be a bigger part of this offense, you got to think about who you're bringing in and how you want to, you know, make sure the offense is built around him. And I felt like they didn't do that. And if you're getting angry at saying you want Emmanuel Quickley to get more time and Obi Toppin to get more time, sure, you can blame the coach. But if you want Emmanuel Quickley to get more time, you didn't have to sign Kemba Walker. We had just Derrick Rose at that point. So that's where I say on the front office, if these are the things that you're now saying that have been leaked because you're upset with Tom Thibodeau, you had that all in your control. And you didn't have to necessarily listen to Tom Thibodeau and get all of his demands. And then I put the blame on Tom Thibodeau because he's supposed to win by the margins with the players that he has, right? He's supposed to figure it out with, all right, I got Evan Fournier. Why am I leaving him out in the corner to shoot when he should have a little bit more on-ball action? You know, doing the curl that he's always done in Orlando and start driving to the basket, looking for guys, putting up the floater, getting a jump shot, getting him into some sort of rhythm. Kemba Walker, you want him just to be the traditional point guard to bring up the ball instead of getting him involved in the offense, not doing enough pick and roll with him. And then you had the whole mishandling of him and not really playing him with the second unit when you could have played him with the second unit and had him run pick and roll with Obi Toppin, or even more with Mitch Robinson at the beginning of the season. Like that's where I start looking at Thibs. So it's a lot of blame goes along, but if your best player, and that's where it goes to Julius Randle, if your best player is not playing at his top level like he did last season, the team is only go as far as your best player is going to take you. Like that's just a fact.
I mean, yeah, and for me, it's a simple question. You look at the standings. Charlotte Hornets have 40 wins. The Knicks have 35. Based on the caller, do you feel if things would have been different, rotations would have been different, they would have balanced the kids earlier, they would have extended their minutes, Thibs staggers the lineups better, doesn't play certain players whole quarters for whatever reason. Like if adjustments would have been made and the structure would have been different, could the Knicks have gone out 5 more wins? I think absolutely.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
I mean, just 3 of those 5 against the Lakers, 20-plus lead.
Mm-hmm.
Not the Lakers full team. You blew that lead. Against the Portland Trailblazers, 20-plus point lead. Against the no Dame Lillard Blazers, only Anthony Simons, you blew that. Against these same very Nets, you had Seth Curry making his debut that game, 20-plus point lead. You blew that game. There wasn't no KD in that game. There wasn't no Kyrie in that game. There wasn't no Ben Simmons in that game, and you blew that. That's 3 wins right there. And that's, later in the season. We're not even going to the first half of the season. So yes, I think, the Knicks would have had a better record if things would have been different. And where do you look at that? I think that goes to the coaching. But my list is front office 1, Randall 2, Thibs 3. The only reason I have the front office number 1 in the end is because they hired the coach. They're the ones that had the terrible offseason in terms of the free agency. They're the ones that decided this, right? Like I understand what's happened after, but that's the front office. And you know how this works, Alex. Eventually, it's gonna go on you. Right now, the coach is always the first in line. Then the player may be next in terms of moves, but then sooner or later, you as a front office, you run out of excuses. Right? I've always said the moment that Thibs is out or Randall's out, front office, you're on the clock. Because now it's like, let's see what you have. So to me, my order, front office number 1, Randall number 2, Thibs number 3.
Yeah, for sure. And the last thing I want to say on that is that, look, like they hired the guy, right? Like they hired Tom Thibodeau. So you know who this guy is. You know his tendencies. Leon Rose, you've known this guy for so long. So if you know his tendencies and who he likes to rely on and what he likes to predicate his team around, which is defense, who's that to blame? Like
why in year 2? In year 2, we haven't even finished year 2. Why is World Wide West talking to James Dolan about the coach? Same coach you hired. That's why, to me, it's on the front office in terms of the order. Like, how is this happening of year 2 of a 5-year contract? And it goes to what you said. You knew who he was. You have a quote unquote relationship with him. Why is the coach in the front office having different viewpoints of the roster, different philosophies of the roster, different visions of the roster, different opinions of the players? Like, why is this happening? Different goals. The front office, I want to see this guy play. I want to see more emphasis on young players. You trade for Reddish, then the reports are that Thibs didn't want him. That Thibs told the front office he wasn't a fan of the move. Why is this happening in year 2? I get it. Year 4, year 5, maybe year 3, or maybe with a coach that you just hire, you don't really have a relationship with. The coach just won the interview process, right? This happens all the time. But when you telling me that we have a relationship, and in year 2 of a 5-year contract, we're already at odds. Heck, you could have said that in year 1. There were some things that Thibs said in certain, going into in the offseason. When Westbrook was available and Bradley Beal and Thibs was saying a few comments. It sounded like he wanted to win now. So to me, that's why those are the reasons it to me is on the front office.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So, well, let's refresh one more time. All right, guys. Welcome back again to Knicks post game right here with me, the Stratocaster Alex Gutierrez, and JD on the other side. This show is sponsored by Prizepicks. All right, use KFTV to do your Prizepicks. I know JD got in some Prizepicks action today. So JD, tell me what you did, what you had going on for your Prizepicks.
So tonight, wait, is this Clipper game over? Oh my God, am I going to go 5 for 5? Oh man. Wait. Oh no, Clippers game is not over. All right. I picked Trae Young over 29.5 points. He had 30. So I hit on that. Clint Capella over 11.5 points against the Washington Wizards. He had 19. I hit on that. Kristaps Porzingis,
Wow.
the unicorn. Let me duck before they start throwing tomatoes. The unicorn, right? So much about that. A 1.5 was his line on the 3-pointers. I took the over on 1.5 just because of the Atlanta Hawks defense. He's a shooter. I felt he's going to get the opportunities. He can hit 2. He hit 4 tonight. So that's 3 for 3. And now Paul George, over 2.5 threes. He has 2 3-pointers right now, but the Clippers are absolutely smoking the Phoenix Suns. So I don't know if he's even going to get an opportunity to play to get another 3. He has 2 right now. He just needs 1 more, and my ticket will be 4 for 4 for the night.
All right, man. And for those of you that don't know, Prizepicks is an over and under betting operator. So if you haven't done so, make sure to download the app and type in KFTV as a promo code. They will match up to 100% of your deposit. So if you put in $50, they'll match up to 50. They'll give you $50. If you put in $100, which is the max they'll do, they will give you $100. So make sure to download Prizepicks. All right. And when you go on the app, as I said, it's overs and unders. So you'll see the line. You'll see that it's set. You can play NFL, NBA. Pretty sure you got baseball on it as well. So make sure to go in there, choose the lines, bet responsibly, and have fun. Make sure to use the promo code KFTV. Like I said, up to $100, 100% match. But yo, JD, let's get back to the phones. We got TGIFLY on the line with us. TGIFLY, if you can hear us, man, what's going on? What's your takes?
Yo, what's good? Knicks Nation, JD, Alex, CP, wherever you are in the city, man. First I want to say, how y'all be on here watching all of this without hitting the like button? You got to support the content creators.
That's
A
good.
like is free.
That's a fact.
It's
That's a fact.
literally free. I mean, to chime in on what y'all was speaking about as far as the front office, I feel like all of this is happening because of year one. If year one doesn't happen, I don't think this is the year I think this is the year that we actually pick a direction and try to rebuild like the right way. But I mean, Thibs, as far as this game went, I feel like Thibs couldn't see the Knicks out of a sock. I think he's too old to coach. He doesn't want to adapt, and at this point, he is who he's gonna be. I mean, RJ was pressing a little bit, and he missed some reads, specifically like Obi and Fournier both in the corner. He passed up on both of them to miss layups. I don't want to say this is like a pattern, but I've seen RJ do this in the Magic game also, just being a little selfish. I don't know if I'm nitpicking, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, RJ still needs these games as a part of his development. I mean, the Knicks lost the game. I feel like nobody really said anything about this, but the Knicks, they got baited into playing ISO ball. Yeah, we had the mismatch, but I feel like the ball stopped moving because we were trying to force feed the mismatch as far as Obi having Kyrie or Curry on him, and the same with Burks. But Burks just be tripping, trying to take KD one-on-one like he's not KD. I mean, but all in all, shout out to Obi and Jericho Sims. It should be a crime for Thibs to really keep these kids on the bench, yo. Like, we watched the Knicks and Mitchell Robinson get manhandled by Drummond all season, whether he was in Philly or Brooklyn. I mean, I feel like he had 18 and 10 one game, 11 and 20 another game. And when he was with Philly, he had like 25 rebounds one game. That wasn't against Mitch, though, but I mean, Jericho Sims got him out the game. And I feel like that is noteworthy for something because nobody had an answer for him like for 3 games. I mean, ultimately, we don't need Randall. We're not going to win anything with him regardless. I would rather lose without him than win a sticker with him. I need to see the kids around with no one to defer to. I mean, Obi needs to be free. He needs to be able to hoop. Like, he always looking over his shoulder. He's a high energy guy, so he's literally like a ball of energy, and he needs to play real minutes to actually settle into the game. Because there's no way I was screaming for him to like stop shooting open threes at one point in time during the season to now. I'm like kind of mad when he hesitates or passes up an open shot. And I blame all of this really on Thibs. I don't know if he got like PTSD from trying not to lose stars of the team, but I feel like he treads real lightly. I mean, I think we got a lot of potential on the bench that we might have never knew about if it weren't for COVID or injuries and all that. I mean, I don't think we figure out a clear direction until the front office does something with Randall and Thibs.
So do you want both of them gone? Do you want both of them gone after the season, or if you had, what are you looking for?
If
One
I
of them
had
gone, both of them?
if I had to choose, I would rather see Thibs go because I want to see if we could bring in a coach that could actually hold Randall accountable and get him to play the right way. I've always been big on like continuity. I'm tired of the coaching carousel, but I feel like Thibs, I feel like he can't coach, bro. Like for this team is decent enough on paper that we should be the 8th or the 7th seed, bro, easily. And we've lost games literally because he got out coached. Like this is a perfect example. Granted, they got Kyrie and KD, but like you had to see that you were getting baited. Like they were purposely they could have put Kyrie on anybody else on the floor, bro. They were purposely putting Kyrie or Seth Curry on Obi to force y'all to throw the ball to the mismatch and slow the game down. So for Thibs not to be able to see that, like he hasn't seen everything all season, he's been a preacher of, oh, I'm gonna play the guys that give us the best chance to win, and then proceed to play Alec Burks for 40 minutes when he has 2 points and 3 assists, and he's a negative 17. I mean, like we've seen the same thing over and over all season, bro. Like I know what Thibs is gonna do at this point, so I would rather him go, and let's see if we could get Randall. I mean, he ain't gonna be like LeBron, no fans. He was LeBron with no fans in the arena, but we ain't gonna get that Randall. But at least he's giving us 20, 10, and 5. I feel like sometimes it'd be empty, but I feel like that's something we could work with if he could play with energy and effort, bro. And we don't got to give him 40 minutes.
I agree with that. Yo, TGIFLY, appreciate you calling him, my man. I don't know. JD, man. I don't know, man. It's so tough to think about the Randall situation because the Randall situation, if you bring him back and he doesn't and he does what he did this season, that's a big gamble. That's a big gamble, dude.
It's too much.
Big gamble. I don't even know. Honestly, that's too tough for me, man. That is too tough for me. Like if the
and
gamble
it can very well happen too.
Oh, absolutely. It can very well happen. But the gamble that you have to take
next year, they're both here.
And I don't want to hear if he went to another team. Oh, he could have done this on this team. Situations change, as you always talk about too. But the fact that if we had to bring him back and then hope that, because it's a big hope, man, because that contract is not the worst, but it's still a substantial size contract. Like you're still relying on him to be a good player. And I know he is a good player. But just seeing how he has gone off the rails this season, is that someone you want to invest in and that you want to put your faith in to come back and help lead this team moving forward? That's the big question. The talent is in there, okay? The talent is in there. I'm not knocking the talent, but for someone to go off so far from the articles that we were reading last season where he would get into the gym as soon as he landed. The guys were galvanizing behind him to go to the gym, get shots up, work out, and do all that stuff. You hear how he changed his mental because he wanted to be a good role model for his teammates and his son. Like the fact that he identified, even in that Player Tribune article where he saw his son like doing the same things for the calls that he's doing, and yet he goes back to it, man. Like it was eye-opening for him to see that that self-awareness, right, last season. But where's that self-awareness now? And if it can easily go at any point of the time, and you have that much money invested in a guy, and you don't know what you're going to get on a given season, and he's been here for 3 seasons. We saw the first season. It wasn't pretty. We see this season wasn't pretty. We've had one magical season. And now you want to put it back in a contract year, and you want to put it back on him to say, we believe you that you can turn it around and lead this team. And we see, last season, I want to point out that, do you remember the image of Emmanuel quickly hugging Julius Randle after one of those games, like just like rallying back? I don't see that this season. And I'm not trying to say that they don't like each other, anything like that, but I don't see that camaraderie around him, right? I don't see that like everyone is rallying behind Randall and championing him like he did last season and trying to hold his head high and believing in him like we saw last season. That is something that I haven't seen on the court. I legitimately have not seen that on the court. And we can even talk to what was, what Berman said on Ian Begley's The Putback, right? That some teammates, were, what was the term? Losing a little bit, of respect, for Randall. Like, now that's from Berman, right? But what do you make of that, man? Like, after everything I just said, like, I know we've already talked about this, but this is the type of stuff that I'm thinking of. Like, I'm ready to move him, and just, it's also to like help him out too, like it's to help him too, because like I said, there is a good basketball player in there. And interacting with the fans, I think once you break that barrier, like breaking the fourth wall type of thing,
said it from the get-go.
It's different. It's different, man. It's just different.
I said it from the get-go. When you pick a fight with the fans, you're likely not going to win. You're just likely not going to win. And it's because you put an additional microscope on you that's not necessary, right? And you're opening up yourself for additional criticism that's not necessary. So I think when he did all that, it was probably a buildup, but then look at everything that's happened since then. And so even when he's had like very good games, it just didn't even feel it didn't feel like what you were saying. It didn't feel like fun. It didn't feel like, the teammates, and it just didn't feel like something to really build on. And so he has that great game in Dallas, and he says it's my gym, right? You remember that moment? He says this is my gym, and then he doesn't follow that up with great games, and then you see the other side of him unraveling on the court, getting ejected, all that stuff. So I just think the issue here is that what you need from Randall next year is a total transformation. You literally need him to go back to all NBA second team.
Another transformation, another magical.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's the only way, right? Because I think bringing him back also as one of the main or the main option is recipe for disaster all over again, especially with this head coach, right? Because think about it. We identified the issues this year. We saw the first half of the season. Nothing changed with the offense. Nothing changed with the style. In the second half of this season, you saw some changes with that spurt with RJ. So you saw that change, but then you saw the effect that it had on Randall on the court, right? In terms of his play. He didn't seem to fit. So what is the plan next year? And does he buy into that? And then what's going to happen if we start the season 2-5? Right? Like it just puts so much pressure on a player from day one. From day one. First game, if we lose that first game, it's going to be, this and that on the floor. Here we go. So why put yourself as an organization with that much pressure? And you know what? How about this? Forget about the off the court stuff with Randall. Forget about the Randall relationship with the fans. Let's make believe that never happened. Let's look at Randall's play. Just Randall's on the court. And then now look at Obi's late emergence. When this happens around sports, naturally, you have to find a solution. So disregarding all the other stuff, just basketball as a front office, as an organization, you have a lottery pick that needs minutes, and you have a max contract player that's in the way. So what do you do? So on top of all that, this organization still has some work to do in figuring that stuff out. Because if you're going to bring the coach back, guess what? He's not playing the 5 to get minutes. Tibbs is not doing that. We know that. So this is also going to be a personnel decision, in my opinion, in addition to all the other stuff that Randall is going to bring with him if he is back on this team.
Yeah, that's a fact. And I think it's when you bring up the last point, right? Removing everything else and you just see two players. It's like your favorite NFL analogy. You have two quarterbacks and you're like, oh, I got to make a decision.
If this was Mike D'Antoni coaching this team, it wouldn't be a problem because Obi would be playing the 5. But this is Tom Thibodeau. So, he's going to play the traditional center and then the 4. So there's a logjam here.
That's a fact. That's a fact. But, JD, let's get back to the Discord. We got the official Michael White on the line with us. Michael, how you doing, man? What's going on? What's your takes?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty well. All considering after this loss.
I was proud of him tonight. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I was proud of them tonight. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we hear that you're proud of them. What's going on? What else?
Well, I don't know about moving Tibbs. I think he needs to go, but I just don't know whether he should, whether we should let him go now.
Would you rather? So would you rather keep Julius? I mean, you'd rather keep Tom Thibodeau, or would you look for a new coach at this point?
Oh, I definitely don't want Julius. Julius has got an issue.
Okay.
But, Tibbs, I'm not in love with Tibbs either. But if he can just do the right thing,
Like Spike Lee, yeah, I feel you. But what are you looking for Tibbs to do? Like, you're looking to change his rotations. You're looking for Tibbs to manage the players' minutes better. Like, what do you want from Tom Thibodeau going into next season to encourage you?
Don't jack with Obi. I've never forgiven him for that. And he made some comments about Obi, and you can see how crazy those comments were. He swore him down. Obi couldn't play. I watched that kid play every game in college. I went to every one of his home games. I went to every home game. I saw him play every game. The boy can shoot. He can run. He is really straight up, where he's, doesn't have a lot of flexibility, but he hustles so hard, he makes up for it. I thought he played a great defensive night tonight. And you know what? There is an issue with RJ. I mean, RJ went crazy that last 3 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, RJ, the thing with RJ is that he'll have these nights where he just struggles offensively to being efficient, especially looking for his jump shot. But that's something you're going to ask from RJ to just continue to improve on from next season. I mean, he wasn't.
And he will.
Oh, for sure.
I think he will. The thing that I like about those kids, and this is one thing that Tibbs doesn't understand, is those kids are enthusiastic and energetic. And, that would have won the game for us tonight if we'd have been able to close out that fourth quarter.
For sure.
Mike, it's KnicksFanTV is nationwide. What state are you calling from?
I'm calling from Yellow Springs, Ohio. You know where that is?
Nope.
David Chappelle?
How close are you to Cleveland?
I live about 15 minutes from David Chappelle.
Okay. Nice.
Okay.
And I've been down there to see him and go to his shows. I can get into shows free. He's a wonderful guy. It's a really wonderful little town. It's really different. It's like a hippie town from the old school. They smoking weed all up and down that street.
Okay.
And that town is legal.
Oh man, that's funny. That's great. Well, thanks, Mike, for calling. Thank you, Michael White, the official Michael White, for calling. Appreciate your takes.
And you know what? I apologize for last week because I interjected something that really wasn't too cool, but I was just trying to make a comparison. I realized now. I said these guys get in trouble over this kind of crap.
It's all good. It's all good. Have a good one, Michael. Thank you for calling in. Man, look.
My man Mike, man.
Yeah, Mike's
Mike
great.
from Ohio.
Mike from Ohio, seen Obi play. I mean, look, man, I agree with him. The kid's got a lot of energy. The kids just need to play, and that's the difference when you inject some youth into a lineup, is that it changes the pace, right? They're gonna play tough. They're gonna play, like, these kids will play tough. They'll go out there, run, give a lot of energy that some of the older players in the league won't be able to keep up with, and that's a good thing. That changes the pace, right? We talk about NFL having to change the pace of back. That the same applies to the NBA when you have guys that can go out there and run. And that's what we like about Obi, what we like about Grimes, Jericho, RJ. All these guys are looking to get out and transition and not necessarily play this slow pace, half court offensive style, which that's really more for seasoned veterans in the league anyway. And that means you've already developed most of your game. You understand how to get to your spots very well, shoot efficiently and effectively, and know how to find your teammates who they're open, and understand how to read defenses. But these guys are still young, man. These guys are still learning. And so that's where you got to let them go out there, get that experience, get that run, so that way they can continue to learn and be, factors in your offense moving forward, and just for the team in general. So that just goes back to Tom Thibodeau, like, looking for him to inject some youth into this lineup and being flexible on that standpoint to just help this team moving forward in the right direction.
Do you have any thoughts about Kevin Durant post game saying that, rarely do you ever see players admit to rivalries or say that. They always say, well, this and that, you have to meet in the playoffs multiple times, blah, blah, blah. But Kevin Durant said tonight, yeah, it is a rivalry. And then, of course, he always throws a shot. There was a lot of Nets fans here tonight. And then he says, he did say, how many Knicks fans don't like us, especially me and Kyrie, since we didn't choose the Knicks. And he says there's definitely a rivalry between the Knicks and the Knicks because of the whole we're in the same city, but he felt that he feels the Net fans are closing in on Knicks.
No, get out of here. Give me a break.
He says every year we keep building our fan base, but he did say there's more Knicks fans, but we're building, and it's definitely a rivalry. So,
building.
I don't know about all that, but hey, whatever gives you motivation.
What are they building? This team is in the play-in for having a team that started off with Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. Now you have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. You're in the play-in. What are you building over there? They chose over there because it's quiet. They didn't want the pressure of the Knicks. Everything that's been going on with that team this season, if it was on the New York Knicks side, there'd be tabloids left and right. Kyrie's not playing. There'd be an article every day, every second, of why he's not playing.
You think Steve Nash is not happy he's in Brooklyn and not the Knicks? The way his season has gone. You talk about a decision and you talk about a season. Listen, I understand they've had their challenges and all that stuff, but you think a Knicks fan base is giving Tom Thibodeau or any Knicks coach a pass when you have Kevin Durant on your team? I don't care that Kyrie didn't play half the season. It's not like they're playing any better with him, right? And you imagine we get a Ben Simmons, and then after you get hyped because, he hasn't played all season, so this guy's on the best shape of his life. He's going to be ready. And next thing you know, he has back issues. A whole different thing that has nothing to do with anything else. You imagine what would happen if this Knicks team had that type of roster and that those shooters, like, just think for a moment, how are you supposed to defend Kyrie on one side, Kevin Durant on the other, and then you got Seth Curry on one side, Patty Mills on the other? Like, any semblance of, playmaking or getting to the basket, you have shooters everywhere. And if this team was playing for the play-in, do you understand with the evolution of YouTube content creators, and then you have the ESPN radio and WFAN, and like the pressure, and none of that is happening on their side. And that's why, listen, say what you say, but Nash, he has not had a great year.
If Nash was coaching the New York Knicks with having the same roster he has now, and we were playing, everybody would be feasting on how we've underperformed. This team is a play-in with these guys. You spend all this money to get Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and all you can do right now is be an A seed, and then you trade for Ben Simmons. The Ben Simmons thing, that would have been like classic New York Knicks all over again. Oh, you trade for a guy who's injured, and now he can't even play, and you're going to be having him on the books with a big contract. That's like screams all New York Knicks all over again. We're not like that, but it just screams all of it. And so I don't even hear a peep, bro. I don't hear a peep about the Brooklyn Nets whatsoever, okay? I just go on ESPN, wherever, check the standings. I see them. Maybe some news a little here around there, but it is so quiet. I don't know what they're building over there. But hey, it's nice that they get to be so quiet. They get to be an A seed and chill.
Just imagine Ari with it. Jared Allen is an all-star in Cleveland, and we gave up all these picks. You know what's gonna happen? Kevin Durant's already in year 3 of his contract. This team is not gonna win a championship. And guess what? Now we don't have no draft picks to rebuild. This is what the Knicks do. You go for it all, and then now you skip steps, and now this team's not going nowhere. Kyrie doesn't wanna play. Ben Simmons, you get a guy with back issues. Now this franchise is going down the drain. You know, because in actuality, if they don't win a championship with all those pick swaps, how are they going to rebuild their franchise? So they have pressure to win, man. And every year is just another year that KD is getting older. He's a very tall player. I think he'll extend his career because of his shooting ability. But I mean, you look at LeBron this year. LeBron's putting crazy numbers, and it's not having the same impact that LeBron used to have. So, you know, the Nets have a lot of pressure to win a championship, you know, soon.
Look, man, they're hoping that the Atlanta Hawks don't win. All right, that's what they're hoping for, because if that means if they get down to the ninth, they got to play 2 games, and they only have 1 home court advantage, not 2. All right, they're hoping to just try to get a home court advantage to make the regular playoffs. So I don't want to hear that the Nets I don't want to hear that nonsense from Katie that they got something building over there. In my eyes, it's been a massive disappointment for them, but they don't want to talk about that. Yo, let's give a shout out
to the 3 Net fans in the chat too. Because you know they hear, you know they watch KnicksFanTV. Hey, yeah. We welcome everyone.
Yeah, for sure. But yo, shout out to Blood of DePonto with the $5 super chat. Like I've been saying, he's PG playing behind Danny Granger on the Pacers. Let him play. Hashtag Obi Avengers. Hashtag free Obi. Man saying Obi Toppin is like Paul George on the Pacers behind Danny Granger. How do you feel about that one, JD?
About who? Danny Granger?
Well, Obi Toppin being that comparison. How do you feel about that comparison?
I mean, Danny Granger was he was more of a scorer and more of a wing, right? And Danny Granger's prime was actually a good defender. Yeah. You know, maybe Sean. What about a Sean Marion?
I'll get with that. I can get with the Sean Marion.
Less defense. Sean Marion was damn near defensive player of the year, many years. But you know, I was digging the Amari stuff for a while, but then he doesn't have the aggressiveness of Amari. I know a lot of people get caught up with the whole athleticism stuff, but when Obi drives to the basket, it's not with the same authority, same violent way of Amari, even though Amari himself was a finesse player. But Obi has potential to take advantage in the post. Amari developed that late in his career. Amari also developed a mid-range game late in his career after the knee issues, looking for ways to expand his game. So we'll see where Obi ends up.
Yeah, that's a fact. And I think he gets the Amari comp just because he's a high-flying power forward, you know? So that's why he that's what those comps are. And like I can get with it to a certain degree because he is a high flyer, like Amari, but you're right with the sense of like lacking authority. If he can do that and be that aggressive, because when you watched Amari play, there was an intimidation factor behind Amari, and it was that's why there was, you know, when we got him to the Knicks, it was a consolation, but you were excited, like, oh, okay, there's something, and then you saw like the Raymond Felton, Amari Stoudemire pick and roll working, like that was fire for a hot minute. That was fire for a hot minute until the whole Melo trade went down. Then we got Melo, and then we all know how that went down. And I still love Melo. But yo, we got Sam on the line. Sam, what's going on, man? How you doing today? What's your takes?
Guys, okay. My dad's a Nets fan. I live in Brooklyn. The
Woof.
friends group chat is blowing up. These games hurt me. These games hurt me a lot.
They hurt me too. I'm not. I mean, I just don't like the Nets because I find them to be at this point. Like, I didn't really care about the Nets. You know, they had that nice Cinderella story with D'Lo and all those guys, but now it just gets to the point where it's trying to make an emphasis like they hear. It's like, all right, guys, just enjoy your team. We just enjoy your team.
Exactly. That second half of that game, I was yelling at my TV because we did not set a single screenplay that entire second half. I don't know why. It was always, for some reason, we put Burks in a whole post up. Why? I will never know. I guess I'll just add on to the conversation about Thibs and Randall. I've had it with Thibs. I really have. This game specifically. The lack of screens being thrown out, the lack of just ball moving. You go from the first half with 19 assists, and then you end the game with 22 assists. You play an entire third where you're constantly looking at the basket and you're getting no ball movement. You're not getting any assist. Okay, I know Emmanuel quickly had a bad game. He ended the first half with 4 assists, guys. He was pushing 4 assists in the first half. Technically, statistically, would mean 8 assists the whole game. He ended the game with 5 assists. Where did it go? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the slowing up. Like, I get it. Okay, maybe you want to change it up. You have the lead, so you need to slow it down. This is not how you slow it down. Because now you're getting a net gain of absolutely nothing. You're actually getting a net loss in points. You scored 15 in the third. Granted, they, in quotes, held the Nets to 22, so it's only a 7-point differential. But you scored, 31 in the second half?
Mm-hmm.
You scored double that in the first half. And then these rotations, oh my gosh. RJ and Obi, they play the entirety of the first and like half the second. And then you have Emmanuel. Okay, everyone knows Emmanuel quickly plays well with either RJ or Obi because now he plays with them and he's that second option technically. Removes him as a threat. You put him out there with the second unit, it gets a little dicey, which we saw tonight. And then Emmanuel quickly got no screens. That's how he scored 20 against Orlando. Anyway, get rid of Thibs. I'm really just tired of it, guys. I really don't know what to do.
Sam, were you expecting the Knicks to win tonight? I just want to ask that question.
I was being delusional today. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
Word?
I was.
Okay.
Only because RJ was finding his way into the paint. So in the beginning of the game, I was like, okay, there's a slight chance. At the end of the first half, I was like, okay, we could do this. Like, we could definitely do this if this continues. And then it just fell apart. Honestly, I was watching the ESPN cast, and when Stephen A. Smith was like, "But we're not gonna win. It's the Knicks," and I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, I know you're right, but I don't want to believe you. I don't want to believe you whatsoever.
I felt that feeling too. I feel you on that. I feel you, but I don't know, man. It was kind of tough for me to like. I feel like it's tough for me. Like I agree with like all the Thibs rotation stuff like that. But I then look at this team and like we were shorthanded to a certain degree.
Right.
I wish I agree with you. Like I wish Quickly did get in there with Barrett and Toppin because it does work. But this is the dinosaur that we have in Tom Thibodeau when it comes to the rotation. Sometimes, unfortunately,
it's crazy. It's ridiculous. I guess I'll be looking forward to the draft. I think the Wizards lost too, so we're still at 12.
Oh, looks like we lost Sam.
Oh, wait, hello? Can you hear me?
No, there they are. So you're looking for the draft?
Yeah, so we're looking forward to the draft. We're still at 12, right? Because the Wizards lost, right?
I think we are still at 12. Let me just pull up. We are tied for. Yeah, we're tied for 12th right now. Oh, 10th actually. We're tied for 10th with the Washington Wizards.
Okay, that's slightly better. I haven't paid too much attention into the draft, but Kansas guard, what's his name? Abag, he's got some wild name. No offense, but I know the Kansas guard. He's like 22. He's a bit older. I know Thibs is gonna try to go for him, and I'm not
Aji?
upset. Yeah, Abaji. Yeah, I'm not upset about drafting him. If we do, because I know Thibs is gonna take it. I know I'm a person that would rather go younger, but if we draft him, I'm not upset at that. I just give you guys some info to talk about. But yeah, I'll catch you guys next game.
Appreciate it, Sam. Appreciate you calling in. Thank you for the call.
I will say, the Nets are 12-15 with Kyrie this season. And for a moment there in the first half, you see why. You see why this Nets team is where they're at. Listen, everyone has their reasons. Anthony Davis was saying last night, I wish we would have been healthy and all that stuff. But, part of me looks at their season. And you just look at the team and the way they played. And even if they were healthy, how much better would they be? So, sometimes it's just that type of season. We talk about it here with Randall, right? It's just that type of season. It's not much you can really do. You can say, well, if this happened and that happened. So, I wouldn't be upset if a Knicks fan came into the night based on the way the Knicks have been playing, based on, once it was announced that Deuce was playing and the young guys were going to play tonight, that you say, okay, we can steal this game. We're at home. We're playing well. The Nets are not. And if the expectation was, we should have gotten this win tonight, especially after the way the first half started, I'm not upset at that. Just because I know on paper, absolutely not. But the way it's actually transpiring this season, the Nets right now are not a great team. They're not playing like one. And so that's why they are where they are, and that's why they could be just like they can, hit this magical switch and eliminate the Heat or whoever they play in the first round. They could also be bounced out in the first round. So, but now I think we have the Wizards next in a much important. I know Ari's going to be watching that game because you talk about we're tied for 10th. Let's see who's going to try to win that game.
Are we really going to draft another player, man? Are we real? I feel so bad if we have to draft another player and then let this guy not play because Tom Thibodeau is going to give him limited minutes. I'm like, look at all the other young guys we have. The only way you're using this draft pick is if we're moving some guys and bringing somebody else in and shuffling around.
This is how crazy it is with Thibs. I had a fan ask me, JD, what's the pick that then he's not going to play? In other words, let's say we got into the top 4, right? You would think that player's in the rotation. So it's at what pick do you know that with Thibs that player is not even going to play? So when you think about it that way, then you look at the fact that we're the 10th pick. We could be the 10th, 11th, or 12th. I think the lowest we'll go to end the season is 12th. The highest is where we're at now at 10th. Is a 10, 11, 12th pick going to play next season if he's here for Tom Thibodeau in a year where he's going to be coaching for his life? Come on now. When there's already now, listen, anything can happen. Obviously, you have an offseason. This front office has a lot of work to do. This draft pick might get traded for all we know as part of a package deal. But all things considered, this is why you gotta have a conversation and you gotta see where you're at, because yes, this draft pick is important. Yes, you can't miss on this pick. It continues. The building continues. Development is still continuing. The importance of draft picks is still there. You cannot miss on this draft pick. You cannot. I don't care if it's the 12th, the 14th, the 18th, or the 5th. You can't miss on this draft pick, man. So we'll see. I don't know if this draft pick is going to be any difference maker next year. in my opinion, unless we win it.
Man, look, I just look. We've drafted so many young guys to begin with. I just want to know who's good. Look, we will get this roster going into next season. We got. Well, let's just start off with all the young guys, right? We got RJ. Well, let's say we do keep Mitch. We got Mitch around, right? You then have Obi Toppin. You got Emmanuel Quickly. You got Deuce McBride, Jericho Sims, Quentin Grimes, Cam Reddish. That's 8 guys I just listed right there. All right. We got 8 guys that you have to think about in a 10-man rotation.
Taj Gibson.
Yeah, Taj Gibson's yeah, for sure. You know,
he'll find a way to be back and be in the rotation. Thibs will get him another 1-year deal.
And then if you think about, like, if Randall's still here, that's 9, right? If Randall's still here, that's 9 guys that you need to figure out. And then you have room for one more. Who is that? Evan Fournier? Like, if he's around because of his contract? Like, if we're drafting another guy, where are they getting into this rotation? Where are they getting playing time? Are they just chilling? They're just chilling on the bench, just waiting to find some hopeful minute, you know?
All about practice, right? It's all about what you do in practice. You have to earn it. So you have to earn it. You have to play hard in practice. It's about, understanding what you have to do in terms of, you have to be connected. So if you're not connected, then you're not going to play, right? Because you have to understand it's all about, defending and knowing where you have to be. It's not all about, whose minutes are this and that, who's important over the other. This is about the team.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if all that practice works out for whoever gets drafted this upcoming season. But JD, that's it. I think that's all we got for this. We got no more callers. Everyone called in, gave them some good takes. Good looks to you. Shout out to Knicks Nation for tuning in to this post game, even after a brutal loss to the Brooklyn Nets. We know we don't like that team across the bridge. We know we don't like them. We know they got whatever 2-3 fans on that side that may be in this chat right now. Maybe in total, you may have just like 3 fans in total, right? I think that's about the size of that team. But thank you all for tuning in. Shout out to all the mods. I see Chuck D in the chat. Put a hashtag PE for Chuck D rocking with us tonight. Yo, guys, we appreciate you all for tuning in. Make sure to, if you do play Prizepicks, make sure to use the promo code KFTV. They will give you up to 100% match. Whatever you put in, up to $100. So make sure to do that and to bet responsibly. We're also sponsored by Manscaped. So make sure when you go over there, you get a 20% discount on whatever the purchase may be for the Lawnmower 4.0. All right. Make sure to use the KFTV promo code for that as well. And guys, if you weren't able to tune in tonight, and if you haven't also done so already, we're on all audio listening platforms. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Alexa, Stitcher. We're on all those platforms, so you can always tune into KnicksFanTV post game if you're not able to rock with us live. But guys, thank you all for tuning in. That's it. All right, we'll catch you later for the next game. Who we got later this week? You said the Wizards, right? Was that Friday?
Yes, sir. We have the Wizards on. Is it Friday? I don't tell you right now in a second. We have the Wizards on Friday at 7 p.m. Early start.
All right, so we got the Knicks facing the Washington Wizards at 7 on Friday.
Games.
For 2 more games, we got 2 more games till the season's over. This game will be important for draft position because we're tied for 10th. Oh man. CP will be back by then, so we'll see how he feels, man. We'll see. We didn't get CP's takes tonight, but we'll see how CP's feeling.
CP's finding a creative way to duck all these good Obi games, but we'll see him next. We'll see him next show.
That's a fact. Knicks Nations, once again, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you later this week when the Knicks play the Wizards. We out.